Hey everybody, it's Chief Meteorologist Brad. And I just thought I'd do a quick update on Elsa tonight because it's still down there and it's still going to have an impact on the Carolinas, but it's going to be an interesting impact based on location. And I'm talking a little bit about why I don't ever want you to let your guard down on systems, but why this system is not the one to freak out about or be too worried about, at least based on the current track. So here it is. It's over Cuba right now. It's a really weird storm because it's super lopsided. And what I mean by that is all the thunderstorm activity is at the center or to the south or to the east. So the center is right where that L is. The whole west side, there's almost nothing there. So if you're on the west side, typically that's the weaker side of the storm. But in this case, it's even weaker than normal for a tropical system. Now, this is not good news for Florida because the track of the storm is going to take it on the west side of Florida, which means the entire peninsula of Florida is going to be on the bad side of this storm. So for Florida, this is not a great system. Now, this is the infrared loop, which is really interesting because it kind of shows us where the coldest cloud tops are, or in essence, the biggest thunderstorm. So at night, this is really effective. So again, the low-level circulation is up here, about to move back into the Florida Straits, which is that body of water between Florida and Cuba. The biggest storms are way down to the south, which is just really bizarre. So it's just a big blob of moisture, more so than a deeply organized tropical system. Now, as they take a look at the latest data, here it was 8 o'clock intermediate advisory, 30 miles east of Havana, Cuba, with 50 miles per hour winds, moving northwest at 13. So it's slowed down over the last couple of days, and I expect that speed will pick back up. So it's forward motion, and that's important for the Carolinas, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So I'm going to go hour by hour here through the track, and again, you can see it's likely to re-intensify as it gets back over open water. Now, normally I would be much more concerned about intensification, but there is some wind shear that will keep it from going crazy. Now, it could still get back to minimal hurricane strength, which is not good news for Florida because we're already seeing this just because of the shape of the coast here and this direction. This is going to be a big storm surge issue. So this is one of those issues where it's a weak storm, but the shape of the coast and the direction it's moving is actually playing a big part in the amount of storm surge. And you may have heard me talk about this in the past. One reason why I'm not super concerned with the Carolinas because, for instance, Isaias last year was a little bit of a surprise, but it was over open water east of Florida, so it was able to push water north up towards the Carolinas. This water is being pushed on the Gulf side, so that's not being pushed towards eastern North Carolina right now. It's being pushed towards the west side of Florida. It's basically, these storms are like bulldozers in the ocean. Doesn't matter how strong or weak, if they're over open water, they're pushing water. And then you get to a coast that's basically shaped like a funnel, where everything comes to a point. You're pushing water. That water has nowhere to go. It's all getting pushed in like this. So there's usually a pretty significant storm surge when this Big Bend area of Florida gets hit. Now, it moves over land, and this is kind of key because unlike Isaias last year, which was, over open water over here, this is over land. So it's not pushing water. So the surge potential is not anything remotely close to Isaias. In fact, it can't push water. It basically has to rely on some of these offshore bands, maybe trying to push water in here, but the main push is over land. Now, a lot of folks say, what if this moves west? Yeah, that brings more rain to Charlotte, but it's an even weaker system because remember, the closer it is to the coast, some of it's going to be over water even though the center's over land. The further inland it gets, all of it's over land, and it becomes a weaker storm. So I would love for it to move west, honestly, because we need the rain in Charlotte. We're in a drought. So this is the kind of weak tropical system moving fast. That's the key here, fast as well. Weak tropical systems are notorious for causing flash flooding and why you should always pay attention to them because sometimes they stall or they merge with a cold front. In this case, this thing at 2 a.m. Thursday to 2 p.m., it's basically crossing the Carolinas. So it's a fast-moving system. So we're not worried about a slow-moving remnant low or anything like that. I think the biggest threat from this storm, honestly, could end up being tornadoes or bad surf and rip currents. Because of that wind pushing onshore and it moving so quickly in this direction. So basically by Wednesday in 24 hours, it's going to be up here in 24 hours. That's flying. That's not enough to cause widespread flash flooding issues. So we're not really worried about that potential. So here's a quick look at the watches and warnings right now. Obviously a lot of tropical storm warnings, and because it's moving inland up here, you've got some tropical storm watches. What'll be interesting is because it's technically a tropical depression when it gets up to the Carolinas, will there even be tropical storm watches or warnings? That's a really good question. That's a dilemma that the Hurricane Center is going to have to deal with. So let me show you the futurecast. No issues tomorrow. So Tuesday, just pop-up storms. Wednesday, some scattered storms as well. And again, as we go into Thursday, someone today said, how do we have a chance of rain on Thursday if it's not really going to impact us? Well, guys, there's other things going on causing rain here. It's just, this is our tropical system. We've got a cold front back to the northwest. We've got deep tropical moisture. So indirectly, if you want to make an argument Elsa's supplying some moisture, I could buy that. That's an indirect impact to our rain. But the direct impact is right there around the center of the low, or the remnants, or whatever you want to call it. You see it moving to our east, and you see basically I-95. If you know where I-95 is, this is the track right now. It's moving east of us, and then you see some of the bands moving east of us. Oop, let me go back. Oops, sorry about that. Jumped ahead real quick. So, then it looks like, actually, I think this is behind. I think it's actually more like right in here by 2 p.m., which is pretty much lined up. So you can see the heavy rain bands are here back towards the west. That's just scattered storms. Now, you heard me mention the tornado risk to the east. The thing that makes me a little concerned about the tornado risk is because it is a weaker system, these rain bands will likely have potentially some sunshine in between them. So the atmosphere can heat up. So some of these rain bands over here in eastern North Carolina might have the potential to produce a lot of tornadoes. So that's just something to keep an eye on potentially. Because of it not being a big blob of moisture, except for these little bands, there could be breaks, and instability could create some scattered storms that, are rotating, especially east of the center. So here's a close-up view. Actually, I'm going to move my head out of the way because the interesting thing about this is it's going to be right where my head is. So we'll go into Thursday morning. You see scattered storms there Wednesday. I guess you could consider that an outer band on Thursday morning, but then that's about it. And then you look Thursday afternoon, it moves east to here. Stop it right there. So probably the area that has the highest chance of seeing some direct impacts would be Wadesboro, Cheraw, Rockingham, Southern Pines, and then obviously Raleigh east. So I-95 to me seems to be the track. Now, the flash flood risk is pretty straightforward with this. We've seen this for the last couple of runs. Move this so you can see it. Move my head back down here. You could see that risk of flash flooding in Florida, high risk, and more than likely we're going to see this maybe extended up into here as well on Thursday. So just a heads up. And so I saw this graphic earlier, and I think I posted it. I don't know if I posted it, but I showed it on air. That's what I'm thinking, 2 to 4 with localized heavier amounts, and then 1 to 2 back towards the west. So that's kind of my thinking right now. Of course, keep an eye on this. Stay weather aware. Don't ever let your guard down on these things, but this is not something that's going to be a huge issue for most of us. This is going to be a quick hitter late Wednesday into Thursday, and probably by Thursday afternoon, by the evening, maybe late afternoon, evening, we actually could see some improving conditions. So have a great night. I will post updates tomorrow. I'll probably do another vlog tomorrow, and then maybe Wednesday before I head out of town. But I will still keep you up to date as we get closer to the system.